Thanks for coming, everybody. It's some familiar faces and some new faces. And Greg, come on, cheer up, man. It's nice and sunny outside. My name is Thomas Goldjam. I'm the director here at Vive, which stands for Veterans Incubator for Better Entrepreneurship. And basically what we do here is we tap into the skill sets of potential entrepreneurs to help them find their way to create their own economy. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but we can chat afterwards if you want to learn more about it. But the whole purpose of today's presentation is to get you excited about how your military training can translate into the civilian world. So, but before we get into the show, I need to do some housekeeping here. So, on May 16th, we have Lieutenant Colonel Jaron Price. He's our first fellow here at the University of Washington. He's doing a presentation. If you guys can make it, please join us for his presentation. He's going to be talking about the remote island defense. It's not really impressive. It does. It really does. Surround a boat around the island or something. But no, he's a nice guy. He's really intelligent, and we're very excited that we have a first fellow here at the University of Washington. And also on May 23rd, we have the Remembering Our Heroes. This is honoring the local Gold Star family. Anybody know what the Gold Star family is? Or Gold Star, basically what that means is that the fallen soldiers or the family members have died in combat. So we want to honor them here at the university. We're going to be meeting right here at the flagpole.
Who's going to be emceeing that?
I don't know. You?
Are you?
He's emceeing.
Are you inviting some of those parents out?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got a name for you.
Okay. So, and we're halfway through our 2016 Spring Quarter Brown Bag Series, and I'm honored and excited that recently retired United States Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer John Groat is here. Served this country for 27 years, 24 years in DOD, and you know, he's a Hollywood star, but don't hit me. He hates it when I say that. But you know, he'll tell you the story of how he got involved with reality TV, but it's not by his
It's not
choice.
reality. It's a docuseries.
It's a docuseries, but it's reality. So either way. But anyway, he believe it or not, John and I used to play baseball together in high school. He played, and I kind of watched. And
Hey,
You cheered?
we let him.
I provide high quality H2O. But he's a good guy. I've known him since my childhood. But when I was flipping through the channels, they were going through, and I go, "That's Johnny." And I basically was watching the show. I was binge watching, and it was very, very intriguing. Yeah. So I reached out to him, and I think he has a great story to tell. And plus his training background, mostly in the military, but in a leadership role, and how to motivate people. And without further ado, Chief, take it over. You want me to start the video thing?
Yeah, just hit the video. That'll give me some more time to burn.
Okay. So here's a clip. I don't know if you guys seen the clip, but we're going to do the clip here for you.
This is the original trailer for the show's called Bombshell Afghanistan. I'll give it a lead into it. It was, oh wait.
Right now our situation is we're on Shock Road, heading south towards the suspected IED, and we'll prosecute from there.
We're going out there against something that doesn't have a personality, a soul, and it wants to kill you.
About 50 meters, you can see it pretty good. It's on the left-hand side of the road. Guards in the center.
No matter what goes down. And then that other guy's got my back. Hey, here at the top side, we found the cache. I got the demo. Hold up. Give us a couple minutes, can you hold? Get ready to move.
Hey, we gotta get a cat. Get in here.
Throw some air on there, throw a couple blocks, and we're gonna freaking blow this guy. Alright, bring the right up. Get other guys down.
I don't remember saying that, just so you know, so I don't know how they got that. Just give you a little background on the, start with the show. Kind of ad-libbing here a little bit, so bear with me. I'm used to briefing admirals and Navy captains and Army colonels and some Marines via PowerPoint. This is kind of a first for me, so it's pretty cool. I mean, experience I couldn't pass up, even though everything in me said pass it up, but couldn't do it. But the show ended up being initially 10 one-hour episodes. I don't know if anybody here seen it? Seen any of it? Okay, I'm sorry. If you do see it, I've got one request that you laugh with me, not at me. So that's it. But it'll be in 10 one-hour episodes. Became G4's one of their most successful shows in every age category, demographic. You see it now on Esquire. I think they'll play a full binge of it of all 10 episodes. It's been in Europe, all over Europe, Russia, Middle East, Asia, Australia. Several million viewers, which is scary. Doesn't make me feel too good about that, but they ended up making 7 more because of their success. They made a lot of money. I didn't get any of it, so you know. Navy gets all the material, they get to keep it, but they didn't get any money off it either. So the way it started, the producer, this young lady right here, did a show. I don't remember if it was the Super Carrier or the Carrier, but it was the 1-hour one that didn't get into the personal side, which we tried to stay away from. It was 1 hour that was just documenting a carrier show. She happened to run into our EOD officer there, Lieutenant, which we all love. I want to beat him now. And gave her this idea. So she came to our command, started pushing it, and we're like, no. Navy EOD techs in general tend to not want any attention. We're most of them are pretty alpha, whether you're female or male. They're just have that attitude, but don't want the publicity. So she came to us, and I was like, no, we're not doing it. Well, she's a smart girl, so she went the apple. This came out. The process started right after Hurt Locker, and our community wasn't real happy with the way that we portrayed the community. So he's like, make it happen. I was like, roger that. So came back to our command. We're the next team going to Afghanistan. They wanted a Warzone documentary. So CO calls me up, and my brand new lieutenant says, hey, they want to do this show. They want to film your team throughout your full deployment in Afghanistan. Go talk to your guys, see if they want to do it. There's two platoons we're going together. Talk to us both. So go talk to your guys, see if they want to do it, and let me know. And I was like, well, sir, what if they say no? Well, you're not going to do it. We're not going to force this on you. I was like, roger that. So obviously I went down there, being the good chief I was and good lieutenant, and set it up for the guys, let them know. And they're like, I can't use the language I used, but it was virtually no, not happening. So roger that. So I went back up and said, Skipper, sorry, the guys are not even against it. They just really don't want to do it. He's like, roger that, you're not going to do it. Well, the next morning he calls me back in and says, you're doing it. So that's how we ended up becoming that team. Ended up being a phenomenal experience. The camera crew and along with the team and the camera crew mesh was amazing. We had a lot of doubts early, but I still keep in touch with them all now. They're awesome people, very professional. Some of them, the quality of crew we had guys that did several seasons of Cops, Survivor, Whale Wars, Alaska Logging Show. Whoever's on that and sees that, I'm sorry, I forget what you're called. But, so the quality was phenomenal. The producer, Katie, this pretty much threw her into the big time. This show ended up hooking up with, I believe his last was Younger. He did Strippo, and he did the big rise in the Middle East. So she's been all over the world doing some major combat stuff. So, and she's freaking phenomenal. She's a great person, great producer. But it brought up some issues early. As the senior enlisted, a brand new lieutenant, so I pretty much ran the team. In our community, for some of you Marines, Air Force, Army, and it's probably somewhat in smaller teams, but you have a team leader, you have guys that are qualified in certain positions. Doesn't matter what the rank is, they're running that show. Well, in the Navy, just for background, chiefs pretty much run the Navy. I was the only Master Tech on the team, which is, Master Tech is, we have 3 badge levels for EOD. You have your basic tech, your senior tech, and your Master Tech. Your Master Tech is fully qualified, supposed to be the expert on everything, yeah, but the badge says you are, so you better come up with the right answer. And I'm responsible for my guys, so I took that to heart. Sat down multiple times with the camera crew, with the producer, got them to bring the ownership group in from Big Fish, was a production company. Sat down with them, and I had one rule for them, and it was, or 2 rules. One, your people do what I say when we're out there, because the combat zone is dangerous. You know, we're going to the bad things, not running from them. So they need to be on board, and if one of my guys say something, you jump. I'm over that. And another one, Navy EOD guys, you never know what they're going to say. And we had almost 40,000 hours of footage by the time it was all done. So my rule that I put to the owner and to the producer was, if my guys come back and there's something they didn't like, it's getting cut there. It's not coming out of the country. They're going to cut it. And roger that. Yeah, that's good. Well, needless to say, that came up in country. My guys came back. I didn't ask him what it was. I didn't want to see what it was. He came back and he said, Chief, some stuff went on out there. I really don't want it seen. Could you have him deleted? I was like, roger that. So I went and talked to Boomer, which is the guy with the best beard. This guy actually got smaller. It got pretty big. It was like his. He was a photographer and the guy that did all the footage, organized it. And there's a term for that. He probably knows. I can't think of it right now. He said, roger that. I got to talk to Katie, the producer. So he goes to her. She says, we can't do it. I was like, what do you mean you can't do it? Can't do it. I was like, well, then pack your stuff. You're leaving. So that changed things. She called the boss and it changed. But there was a lot of that in the early times. You know, I had to set the law, not only for my guys, but for the camera crew. And once that was established, they're amazing. I mean, they still call me Chief, you know, even though, you know, they're brothers and sisters. But some of the challenges that you come into as in our community as team leader, a lot of this stuff relates over to the civilian side, but not only did I now have 8 guys that I had to train, get them ready for, and all of them were young. I had one guy that had previous experience with SEAL teams, so not the large picture EOD stuff. So I had to get all those guys ready. We had to accommodate the film crew in our workup cycles, so we had to add some stuff in that wasn't related to training. All for a mission that a lot of people don't come back from. So it's the stress level there is pretty high. I mean, I'm taking now, instead of 8, 16, 17 people into one of the most stressful, dangerous jobs you can do in the world, and still maintain a calm environment and make sure my guys are ready to go and perform the way they're trained. And on that note, one of the most rewarding things you can see, and this to me applies across the board, I've done some civilian time too, I'm out there now, is when you train your people. You know, you do this hard workup cycle, you get them ready to go, whether you're training them for a mission or training them for a product that you're putting out. And you see the failures, you see the mistakes in the training cycles you're working up, but that's where you want those to happen. But then you get out in the field and you're doing the real job and you see your product and what you put out and the effort you put out actually in these young guys. And they're making spot decisions that you're like, wow, that's impressive. So to me, that's the most rewarding side of leadership, whether it's in combat or anywhere else, is to see your people doing what, doing the things that you wouldn't expect them to be at that level. So the experience was phenomenal. Enjoyed it. There was quite a few missions where the film crew wanted to come with us, but I took a little risk management, risk assessment, call that ORM in the Navy, and the Army, and the Marine Corps, and the Air Force. So if you watch the show, you only see any footage that you see where we're not in the vehicles. It's all mounted cameras. And 90% of those dismounted missions, I didn't allow any cameras because one, didn't want them with us. Having to deal with that risk is already risky enough, but being on foot kicking doors is not where I wanted a cameraman behind me, and it's not where I wanted a camera on me or on my guys. So when you watch the show, just know there's a lot more went on than what's on the footage. But some of the things I had to implement worked out well because of the quality of crew they sent with us. And I was able to screen those before they went. But on all these missions, you'll see a lot of different camera work. You'll see some night vision. You'll see some infrared. That's all camera. That's all the camera crew. So when we got into some nasty stuff, or even basic stuff, I put them to work. They became part of my team. We trained up. I trained them up. So a camera you can probably attest to it. A camera to these guys are like their own eyes. What would take me 10 minutes to find something small on a hill, they were on it like that. So utilized that and implemented those guys into the mission. And instead of them being somebody that had to move and get out of the way, they were actually somebody that was operating, moving gear, handing explosives up to get it built up for a shot. Some of these guys could probably be ETEX now after some of the things we did out there. They're a pretty impressive group of people, so I got to give them those kudos. How much time I got? Are we good?
I got 2 more hours.
I'd like to be this open. I've got some key things I put down. I'll talk about that here in a little bit that I utilize in my leadership styles. It's kind of weird because when he asked me to do this, I was like, well, I really don't know what they are. I know what I do and what I expect, but I've never put it on paper. And it was really kind of enjoyable and interesting to sit down and just start writing bullets out on my belief system in leadership and how to implement it and how it affects the team and how it affects growth in the team. And put it together, I was like, man, that's pretty damn good. I guess it was all right out there. So it's, to me, a successful leader, and it's in here, you're only as successful as the guys and girls that are around you. When they look good, you look good. It doesn't matter how bad you are, but if they look good, you're going to look good because you're the direct representative for them. So I don't know how does the corporate world. It might be a little bit different, but on the military side, my job was to make that youngest guy, bring him to a level where he can take my job. Take the next guy up. Take the guy below me, that next mission, he needs to be able to take my job and do it. So the goal is to grow your people, not hold them down. They're not a tool in the shed. They are the answers to the mission, to the job. And that's the way I pretty much approached everything. But on that note, if you have any questions, this would be a lot easier if it was two-way. You got any questions before I get into these keys that I have? Anything about some challenges I might have had, could have had? A lot of you guys are drawn from a lot of experience that you had in the military or from the civilian world on how I handle things, or any questions at all?
No
No?
question.
Okay.
I was watching it. 10 hours of it.
And you
It's
missed the
addicting, guys. I mean, really, it is addicting.
You missed the last
Working.
7. One of the ones that said we got a donkey eating explosives.
Oh, I didn't see that, but I have to go back. But my thing is, I was really impressed, Chief, was that, you know, you're in a firefight, and you have to make a decision, and it's life or death situation. I mean, you don't have, you regret making that decision, or you go, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that, call them back. You ever situations like that happen?
Every situation's like that. In that job, every decision you make could be the worst one. Every decision you make could be the best one. There's no plan that's better than any other plan, as long as it's safe and good. But the decisions you make out there determine whether you live or die, whether your teammate lives or die, or whether the rest of the force, you know, people out there live or die. So spot decisions, you know, no matter where you're at, you got to make them. As the team leader, as the OIC, as the chief, as the first sergeant or whatever, you've got to make those spot decisions when that time arrives. But 99% of the time, you have time. And a few seconds is time to determine what that plan is going to be. Utilize your team members to develop that plan, and so you can implement the best plan you have. But yeah, there's a few occasions there where it was, hey, make this happen now. And your guys got to be, you know, your team's got to be on a level to where they know when that is. I mean, they're trained well enough. They know that, hey, it's not my time right now to say, well, shouldn't we do this? Because if you've developed that atmosphere within your team where you're being questioned, then your leadership abilities have failed. So when those spot decisions are made, your team already knows, hey, he's making that call. He's the man that is here for that job. We're going to do what he says. Then again, I did promote, even in those situations, if somebody sees something, anybody ever has that hair stand up in the back of your neck? Because whether you've had that happen to you or not, it's real. And you better believe it. You better trust it. It's saved my life on multiple occasions where, you know, I've come in and, you know, I'm going to response or going into a situation or in a location, I'm like, man, this doesn't feel right. And when that happens, your extra senses better kick in, or something bad is going to happen. So I did promote that. If they felt that, they needed to speak up. Roger that, got you. We'll take that into account. Or, oh shit, back up. All right, good call. There's too many leaders out there that are like, shut up. Yeah, I got it. And that's how people get killed. That's how projects fail. So, yeah.
How do you, my question is, now you have a military that's been trained, then you have a civilian. How do they adapt to that kind of command? I mean, you only had a few weeks for them to train. They just can't just say, okay, I'm going to move.
You know, maybe it was just the people I had, that crew that was with me. They did, before they came out with us, they did go through a training course. They were not supposed to have weapons, but they did go through a shooting course. They went through some tactical stuff. They went through their gear, how to utilize the gear. They were all in flak, different color, but they all had their kit, their armor's all blue. So they did go through some training, and then unfortunately I didn't get everybody before the deployment. A lot of them we met up at the airport, so we had to do in-country stuff, which is not the ideal thing, but for the producers and a couple of the cameraman and the comms guy, we were able to do some stuff. The only one that had any experience was the comms guy. He was a former Marine. He was good to go. Called him Bad Santa because he looks like Bad Santa. But he's Danny. He's a really good dude. So we just had to implement that when we got there. Before we took him out, we did some training. A lot of discussion. Got him more weapons time. Got him on our weapons. And you know the rule is out there for these crews that are in country, they're not authorized to grab weapons. They're not a combatant. And I mentioned that. You know, if we're in a firefight, you're not supposed to grab a weapon. But I'm not going to stop you. You know, it's your life. You do what you need to do to protect yourself. Whether that was the right call as a leader or not, I'm not going to take that right away from somebody. So the weapons training was important. And they're actually pretty good shops. I was pretty impressed. The girl was the best. She tore it up. She beat the Marine too. But yeah, I set the law down pretty early. They were pretty scared of me. I'm not a scary guy, so it kind of surprised me. Before, one of the things I also implemented was private. Anything private, we're not, it's not a reality show. That's not what we're doing. We're not here to catch the emotions and try to trigger things. I had a guy that did that. He wasn't with me. I pulled him back. He stopped. But we can control the chopping of that. I can't say you can't do that. I told my guys, it's up to you. You want to let them into your private life, that's your call. But I told the camera crew, don't start that. Don't push it. If you do, you're gone. So whenever they wanted to film something that was in a private area, in our berthing area, inside our shop, they came to me first. I was like, okay, roger that. What's your plan? This your plan? Okay, that's fine with me. Talk to the guys. If the guy's fine with it, then you can go ahead and shoot it. So they were pretty good about that. They were very disciplined, organized. They stayed out of the way. There's times you forget about them. We had anywhere from 4 to 10 cameras on us from different directions all the time. And early on, that's pretty nerve-wracking. Within the first couple weeks, you don't even know they're there. You forget all about them until you review the footage. After you get back to country, you're like, oh. But yes, they were solid group of people.
I'm encouraged by your comment about training. You make the mistakes before you get there, because once you hit the ground, it's got to be right. And casting back 25 years ago, I was in the same boat in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and I was intel officer for an artillery unit. We started shooting right after the bomb started dropping, so we were in the fight early. And about 5 days into it, my senior NCOIC, it's about 2 in the morning, he just sort of kicks back. She says, this feels just like a training exercise. Which I promptly got up, went outside, and said, "Yes, we got it right." And I bring that up because, from the business perspective, now fast forward 20 years later in the business community, it's exactly the same deal. If you've got people working for you, if you're running a shop, if you're running an organization, if you're running logistics, it almost doesn't matter where you fit in the spectrum of business. If your guys, you turn around and you have to leave one day because you got to go somewhere, and you have to rely on your people to get the job done right. And if you've trained them right, it's going to happen. They're going to get it done. You take care of your people, they'll take care of you. And it's the same kind of style.
Yeah, I was just saying, train like you fight. If you're taking shortcuts when you're training, you're going to take those shortcuts when you're, in during a bad time. And because you're creating muscle memory when you train. So, no matter what field you're in, if you're doing one thing the right way all the time, you're going to do it the right way when it matters. If you're taking shortcuts because you want to be done with it early, we won't do that today. We'll just skip that one and move on. Well, you're going to miss that, and it's going to cause issues. And the first time, anybody here has been in combat, the first time you're out there and before, you think, how am I going to react? You don't know. Am I going to be able to make these decisions on the spot? Am I confident in myself enough to make the right decision? But because you work up to it and you train so much for that position, you make the right calls. It just ends up happening. And I didn't realize the very first one was pretty hairy, and didn't even think about it. Calls were made. They ended up being the right calls, thank God. I get back after the fact, and started thinking about it. I was like, hey, I made the right calls, and it didn't, it wasn't something that I was nervous about making the call. It happened. The situation happened. I made the call, I made the response, and it worked out great. And it's really weird to experience that. I'll tell you what, it's a huge confidence boost to know now that, I'm going to make that call. My team's going to make the right call. And seeing them do that is impressive. And I was fortunate and unfortunate, but when I got back, I told our Commodore, who's a captain, which you don't want to talk that way, but I was like, sir, I'm gonna be involved in this editing because everything had to go through the Navy before it went out. I'm not gonna have somebody else edit my team. I want to know what's getting out, what's not going out. I want to chop what's going, things I don't want going out. He's like, roger that. So going out, training the guys for the amount of time we put into the training period before you deploy, And I broke down into 3 teams, you know, two 3-man teams and my 2-man team out of our 8 guys. So you don't see what they're doing out there as their chief. You get the reports on what happened, and that's what you get. But to go back and review that film, all that footage, almost 40,000 hours of it, it makes you feel really good because you're seeing these guys perform, you know, the first time out there, and you're like, hey, you know, they're making the right calls. And sometimes you go back after at night and go in the shop and shut the door and shoot somebody out because what were you doing? You know, you see the stuff, which got cut because I didn't let that stuff go out. You know, there's a couple things that, you know, the guys did that I saw in reviewing the footage that, you know, I wanted to make sure they didn't make that call because the next time they're going out, they're the team leader. They're the guys running the show. And they made a call out there or did a decision, 2-man standing on top of an IED, which you should never do, which they did. And so I went in, you know, I'm not a guy that goes in and yells. I'm not a yeller. I think that's counterproductive. But we had the discussion, and I just wanted to make sure they went out, that it didn't, you know, that stuck in their head, that they incorporate into their team, and that, you know, and if they don't do that. And 2 things happened to me that were highlights of my career. They're really tough situations, but it let me know that what I did as a leader was worth it. And it was just 2 separate phone calls I received. After my teams are separated, they're off doing their own thing. One of them, I had a young man who's now out, but he's got his master's from MIT. So he's sharp. He gives me a call from somewhere in Afghanistan, 3 o'clock in the morning, edge of tears, just thanking me for training him. And he had another chief going through the team, but they'd had a real bad day, lost a couple guys. I think they maybe killed a few guys. His first experience, or I don't know if it was his first, but it's one that really got him hard, and gave me a call in the middle of the night just to thank me, which that happened twice with 2 different guys. And when you get that call, 1, you're like, oh man, I hope he gets out of there. And 2, it is the best feeling in the world to know that you did something, if it was just for 1 guy, that made a difference. And that's the highlight of my career. If nothing else would have happened, I'd have been fine with that. So it's rewarding, definitely rewarding. But so I'm lost now. Any more questions?
No more questions? Come on.
Well, we can talk about a couple responses before I get into this. Because this will only take a few minutes. There's our second call in Afghanistan. I had a young man named Chase, 23 years old, 22 years old, first deployment. One of those young men that know everything. Super smart. He's so smart that he'll tell you something and you'll be like, is that right? And he's not. So he's just, I mean, he's the guy that should be up here talking right now because he could convince you in anything, but he's a good kid. He's growing up well. He's doing real well. But our first mission, there's a Afghan police station got attacked the night before, and they went out and they followed and they found an IED in one of the firing positions that they dig out on these hills. So they call us out to go out and take care of it. Well, it happened to be over 4 mountains. So I tell the cameraman to chase, it's just us 2 in the vehicle. Oh no, Brendan's in there too. He's my comedian. Tell him to hold back. I'm gonna go out and check it out. Don't need to have everybody out there. So myself, the police chief for the Afghanis, he was probably 25, but he looked like he was 62. And our Army escort cruise on this mountain. First time over there, it's freaking, I don't know, 6,000 feet high. I'm sucking wind. Not as in good a shape as I probably should have been. And we get out there and I'm looking and I say, well, there's one there. And I look at another one, well, there's one there. And I look at another one and there's one there. But they found the one because one of the police saw one in a pit and decided to shoot it. So he shot it. Fortunately for him, it low ordered. And he just got burnt a little bit and our corpsman treated him. So I call back to the truck and I'm like, Chase, the young guy. My other guy's got a little experience, but young guy's coming out. you need to get, this many blocks of C4, this much time fuse, this much stuff to get rid of this stuff. And I found out after the fact that he about crapped his pants. Because, Brendan tells me, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, Chief wants me to go? I don't want to go. So, but we get up there, and this is actually in one of the episodes. You don't see all that, but we're checking these pits out, and we can see one of them has they use these big yellow jugs for with homemade explosives and usually pressure plates. Well, we can see part of the homemade explosive, some of the jug, and I said, hey KJ, so you take that one, put a stick on that, and I'll take care of these other ones, and they're all pretty much booby trapped. They're loop switches, so if you hit a wire, it pulls, detonates. There's some pressure plates, but it was a pretty elaborate setup. And next thing I hear, oh shit! Like hearing that when somebody's working on IEDs. So I turn around and I'm like, what's going on? And he's on the ground crawling into this pit to place his charge. He's probing, make sure it's clear so you can get close enough to place this charge and get rid of it. He's like, Chief, there's a trip line. So that changes the whole ball game. There's very few items in Afghanistan that are found rigged that way. So find out later it was a Pakistani bomb maker who was down Lower Hill that was doing it. But so things, the tension, how I handled that, I thought I did pretty well. But that situation, he was within a foot of that tripwire before he saw it. And what it ended up being was that tripwire went to a landmine or hand grenade, which was on multiple landmines that were rigged around the hill, all pointing in towards the center. So it was that being the second call and seeing that, I was already hyper alert before that, but it put the entire team on much more, gave much more perspective on what's going on out there, and I think that was probably a really big game changer on how some of these guys looked at things as they went out after that. Which I had some scenarios in training that were almost like that, so it was perfect. So it worked out great. But so that's one of the calls. A couple of other calls if you do watch a show. Some of them are multiple days. Not the same day scattered out. There's one of them that was, when you see it, it's probably the funniest one. It's the first episode. A little background on it when you do watch it, so you can laugh a little harder if you do watch it. There was about 3:30 in the morning. We got a call. One of the, a guy we called Smoke, Army calls their guys, their team leader Smoke, was responding to a police station getting attacked. They went off the road, hit an IED. One of our favorite guys, awesome. He didn't get hurt. His driver got concussion. He got medevaced out. So we get called out 3:30 in the morning and go out there. Well, we get up like, oh, God, it's going to be a long day. So I grab a greasy sausage and egg sandwich that was left over from the day before or something like that. Get out the gate. As soon as we get out the gate, we got to wait for our QRF, our response force. Well, they decided to send them from the other base. I don't know why. So we're waiting there for about 40 minutes, which makes no sense to me, but that's the Army, right? We probably got blamed for, EOD always gets blamed for getting there late. But just so you know, when that sausage comes over you early on in a trip, it's not a good deal. And it did. It hit me hard. And there ain't nothing you're doing inside a truck. It's not happening. So we get out there, and we've got to clear the area, make sure there's nothing else so the tow trucks and everything else can get in there, and make sure it's safe. So we clear it out. We gather all the evidence because there's a lot left from the IED. Vehicle's done. They tow it out. One of the Afghani police comes down. He's like, hey, we got a hand grenade. They threw over the wall inside the compound. I was like, good for you. I got to get back. Well, couldn't leave it. So, that's already, an hour and a half, 2 hours into it. So now we go up this big mountain to the top of this hill and go up and take care of that safely. Pin was out, striker was down, so it's a pretty dangerous situation. So we just blow that up. Told the guy to move his motorcycle first, so we didn't frag it. His motorcycle right next to us, so we backed that out. That was nice. So we get done with that. I'm like, oh, thank God, let's go. So we start coming out, and we get a call. Yeah, we've got a booby-trapped Connex box going up to this another police station. We need you to check it out. I'm like, oh, that's one of those hairs that stood up, and it wasn't because of the other reason, but it could have been. So right away, I'm like, man, this doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good. I don't know if they show it in the show, but so we're 5 hours into this trip. So we head out to this this booby-trapped rig, and got my young, cocky, 23-year-old EOD tech who knows everything, driving the robot in the back, and so I'm like, hey, get the Talon out, send it up. The Talon's our big black robot. It's a little more durable. So we get it out, he sends it up, he's searching it, getting all the footage, we're talking through it. There's some cables for where they tow it hanging off the side. And I was like, yeah, I don't like those, maybe get a better look at them. We reached out and grabs one and pulls it a little bit. Well, it was hooked to a pull loop, and it detonated. So it blew my robot up, which made me very unhappy. So I got two things going on now that I didn't like. Because now I got to get that robot back, and I got to finish searching it. So we had 2 Talons. So we send the other one out, and we gets halfway there, and it starts picking up video from the first one. So now we can't drive that one because we got wrong video. We can't see it. So needless to say, we get our mini robot out, send it out there, and he's like, oh yeah, I can take care of it. I'll go turn off the other switch. And so if you watch the show, you'll see there was a lot of stress there, and he got a little kind of yelled at. A lot of bleeps, just so you know. I saw the footage that didn't have the bleeps. It's pretty bad, but there's a lot of bleeps in that one, and I'm not somebody that cusses very much. Needless to say, I had to get out. Once you clear it, if people are going to go in there, you got to put boots on the ground and do a more thorough check to make sure there's nothing else there, because it's a bad thing if you clear something, say it's good, somebody comes in and gets killed. So I get out and do a final clearance, using the metal detector and eyes and hands and every tool I have. But as I'm getting out the truck, us Navy guys, we have those, because we're water guys, right? We're in the desert, but we have kit that's designed to have quick releases, so if you fall in the water, you don't drown. Well, my quick release got hung up on the door as I stepped out, so I'm hanging out the door by my kit. Well, I was a big boy, so it didn't last very long, so it snapped, it cut. Well, that's the only kit I have, and I'm not sending the other guys out there, so I'm walking around, sweeping, holding my kit up. Finally get back in the truck, get it cleared, get the robots all back, and that was one of the best nights I had once we got back. It was awesome. But when you see, if you do watch the episode, you'll see that, and you'll laugh probably a little harder, because there's some comical stuff that goes on with that one. That was probably one of our more interesting ones that I can talk about that we did over there. There's a couple big firefights that were pretty ugly that you see towards the end. There's a lot more than that happened, but those are the big ones that they got footage on. But if there's no other questions, I'll get close. I'll just lay out some of these key points I have that if you could take anything from this, great. But I don't think, without some of these rules, I don't think anybody can be a successful leader, because I think you just lose people. And I've lived by them, and it seemed to work pretty well. You can probably do research, and you'll see a lot of this stuff out there, which surprised me, because I wrote it down and I started looking around like, hey, other people do that. So that's good. I've got basically 8 keys for leaders, my 8 keys that I think are good to take on board or look at. And for anybody, everybody's different. Everybody's leadership styles are different, but there are some major rules that everybody should have. And you have to adapt your leadership style to you. You can't take somebody else's leadership style and try to utilize it. It has to be yours. But you can implement some of the good features of leaders into yours. You always look at your bad leaders and get rid of the stuff you don't like they did, and your good leaders and take the stuff on that you got from them. That's pretty much what I've done through my career. And I've had some really, really good leaders. We're pretty blessed to work with some of the best and brightest young men and women I think this country has to offer. And I don't say that just to say it. they're pretty impressive people out there. Across the board in every service, you can't beat a veteran, especially if you're going to hire somebody. It's hard to beat the work ethic that is instilled in a lot of these guys and girls. And we do have this thing about women in combat not happening. Since the beginning of the Gulf War, Army, Air Force, and Navy EOD have had women in combat. Carrying guns, running on top, MPs, all the above. So they've been there. You just didn't hear about it. And they've pulled the load pretty well. I know some pretty amazing operators. Marine Corps, not so much. They don't let women with them. But my first key, I kind of bolded some of this out and then talked about it. Be a leader, but always know when you should follow somebody, even though it might be your junior guy. You need to know when you need to be on top of things and when to trust the team to go ahead and take it. So that's kind of that micromanage thing. Micromanage is kind of detrimental. I'll get into that, but you've got to bring your team to a level that you can trust them to operate, trust them to do the job. Because if you're sitting on top and they're going to be afraid to make those decisions, and you're not going to get a good production out of them. You have to. It's hard in my community, but you have to set aside your ego and listen to what your team has to say. I had one rule that I gave the guys, and to my team leaders, mainly to my team leaders, and I told them, other than this rule, I'll back you on everything else. But if you don't utilize this rule, except for in one situation, I'm not going to back you. You must use this rule, or you could have me on your back. And that's you will, in every case possible, utilize your team to formulate a plan to determine risks. No ifs, ands, or buts, unless it's a spot decision where you have to make that decision now because life, death, or property is at hand. So, and I didn't tell them exactly how they should, but I promoted utilizing the junior guy up. Get that young guy's decision before you put yours out. Because once you put your idea out there, everybody's keying into that idea, and not bringing out that fresh perspective. And that new guy hasn't developed habits. He hasn't developed ideas from experience. So he's going to give you that fresh look. That I've probably learned more from the young guy and some of their ideas and expanded my abilities than anything else, because they're sharp. And then work it up, and then that's a good idea. Or don't shoot it down. Go to the next guy. Go to the next guy. And if any of those plans, especially that young guys, if it's as safe, as good, going to get the job done as well, going to give you the product you want, utilize it, or implement it into your plan, because that promotes development. It gives ownership to that guy. He's not just that tool in the back of the truck, or the tool in the office, or the guy punching the stamp. He's now has ownership in that plan, and it makes that job more worth it. He's part of the job now. He believes in what's going on because he's in the decision-making process. And 2 heads, 3 heads, 4 heads, 100 heads is a lot smarter, a lot better than 1. But you're still, as a leader, you're still that guy that's going to formulate, put that final plan together, but utilize them. And on that note, there's times to be assertive. You have to, especially in that situation where it has to happen now, or if you got that argumentative young chase in the back of your truck, 23-year-old who knows everything, who decides that he should try to convince you to use his idea. And that's happened to me a couple times. I had one of my other team leaders who had a plan, and it was in his head. I know he's been thinking about it for weeks. How am I going to bring this to chief? How are we going to make this happen? So one day he says, "Hey, can I talk to you?" It's like, "Sure." So we go in my little office and shut the door. Little office in the middle of Afghanistan, so it's not much of an office. And he starts telling me about this. I'm like, "Yeah, that's not a bad idea, but it's not going to work because of this, this, and this, and we can't do that." He's like, "Oh." And he comes back with a different approach, but the same plan. This goes on probably way longer than I should have let it. And I'd like to say it was a good idea, but it wasn't. It was not a good idea. But he hit me with it from 4 different angles. And finally, like I said, I'm not one that gets loud, but I raised my voice a little bit, and I said a couple words. It's not happening. Drop it. So you got those guys. There's times like that when you have to be a servant. You have to be a little overbearing, but you need to know when to do that, because it can be very detrimental if you become that person, and you won't get the response you're looking for out of your people. There's a little line here. You must present a presence. You know, they must know you're there. They know who you are, but you need to, with that presence, you still need to be approachable. You can't set a presence where they're like, ooh, well, I want to go talk to him. Go tell Chief. No, I ain't telling Chief. You know, you don't want that. You want to have that. You want to set a standard where they can come talk to you anytime. They can come bring you ideas. They can bring you problems. It's not just work-related stuff. You're that leader. You might be that person they want to come talk to you about personal stuff, private stuff. You might be that only shoulder that they have, and it could go a lot deeper than that. You know, it might be, you know, they're having issues where, you know, they don't want to be around anymore. And if you've presented that, you can't be that person, and even though they may want you to. So, have that presence as a leader. Know that you're the leader, but also definitely, you know, let them be comfortable in approaching you. We talked about that part. All right. The second one here is, and I think it's just my personality, but it worked really well for me, and I've seen it work well for others. Always try to remain calm. For some reason, I'm pretty good at that. Things don't fire me up. I thought I would, when I ran into some really stressful situations, that I'd react differently, but I found the more dangerous it was, the calmer I got, which was kind of weird. I had to question myself a little bit about that. Walking down on an IED, and just know, I didn't walk down on an IED out of the blue. We did a lot of other things to reduce the threat to where I could walk down there. But, you know, you don't realize it till after, but walking down there and doing the procedures you need to do to make that thing safe was calming. And when I went back and sit down, my way of relieving stress is I hit the weight room. At the gym, I'd run, hit the weight room. There's nothing going on, I was in the weight room. So it's a good stress reliever, but sitting back and then just looking back and like, whoa, I should have been crapping my pants. Fortunately, it wasn't that day, so we were good. But so it's important to stay calm, because people tend to, if you're a guy that stresses a lot, you'll lose respect to your people. You've got to control your emotions as much as you can, but people need to know you have emotions. You know, you can't hide that. So you've got to find that fine line. You know, they're still part of your family, even though it's your work crew. They're still part of your family. They need to see that also, and know you're human. This is a big one. Again, there's times when you need to counsel somebody on the spot. I don't ever think you need to be loud, aggressive. Some people have that belief where you have to hammer somebody to make it stick. Every subordinate you have is different. Every person working for you, every team member is different, and they handle things differently. But I don't know anybody out there that likes to be scored in for other people. They're not going to do their job better. It's going to be a detriment, and they're not going to want to do as much for you. But utilize privacy when you're counseling somebody. If you have to have somebody else in there, you know, have somebody else in there, but take them aside. You know, you don't need to yell. Utilize, you know, let them know what's going on. Let them know where they're having issues, but where they're doing well also. But if the situation warrants it, have them come up with the fix. Make them part of the plan to make things better. If you score, like I said, if you score in public, you're not going to get the response you're looking for. They're just going to clam up. They're going to do minimal. You know, you'll have those. Some people won't, but a lot of them will just, you know, work at the lower level and not give you everything that you should be given. Whereas the other hand, if they respect you, they're going to give everything they got. and you can get a much better product, much better production, and a better work atmosphere, which is important. And this is the know, it's kind of what the emotions say. Don't be afraid to let your team know. Don't always hide your emotions. Don't let them affect your decision making and your team unity. Because the most important thing is keeping that team together. I've had teams where guys didn't like each other. It's just personalities clash, especially in that alpha environment. But they still work great together. They still trusted each other. They just couldn't go out with each other. They just couldn't go have a beer. Or families didn't get together or anything like that. But don't let your emotions affect the decisions you make. As a leader, you got to be confident. You want to instill confidence in your people. You got to be, if you're not confident in your ability, you lose respect. If you're not knowing what you're doing, people are gonna be like, well, I should listen to him. He doesn't know what he's doing. But on that note, be confident but not cocky. And that's, for some people, that's pretty hard line to toe because they can't tell the difference. They try to show confidence, but by showing confidence, they do it in a manner that's not productive. Cockiness tends to come from people that really don't know what's going on. Confidence is what you want. When you can figure out how, that comes naturally. When you become comfortable with what you're doing, you know what you're doing, you know your job, confidence is there. So basically know your job and be confident. Not cocky, that's bad. Confident leaders inspire confidence within their team. While still, if you're confident, you're going to instill that confidence in your team. They're going to trust what you're saying, what they're learning is good. Whenever you come across a failure, though, you're not too big as a leader to own up. You need to own up to when you made a mistake. That's going to instill more respect. If you do something that screwed something up, you don't blame it on somebody else. Yeah, it must have happened because of that. No. Own up to it and instill that into your people, owning up to their failures. And make sure they happen before the final product's being put out, in your training phase, in your workup phase. The failures, that is. But own up to them. It's important. We talked about that. All right, next one. Kind of jumped ahead, so I don't have to read those. As a leader, especially in the combat side, but this can apply everywhere. You need to still be brave. You need to not be afraid to attack something. That's a challenge. Because if you don't, you never know. So be brave, but don't be foolish. Foolishness doesn't get you anywhere. Being too brave can be bad. So you got to find that fine line there too. Don't waste time excessively contemplating. Use your team. That'll get that problem quicker. But you need to work as a leader and with your team to mitigate risk before you implement the project or the mission. And that's important. You need to shoot holes into the product you're trying to put out before they shoot holes in you. Beat them. And I utilize what I call, just went blank, but it's written here. Okay. Threat rings. In every mission we did, every IED we approached, and this can be utilized in any situation you're in, we call them threat rings. So basically, if you look at it on a schematic or on a picture, you have the outer rings, and those rings get smaller till you get to your product on what you want to accomplish. Well, there's that outside ring is a section that is you can approach at a safe distance to eliminate that threat. And I'll put this towards an IED. There's different ways to initiate IEDs. You got remote control, which is somebody pushing a button, runs through the air. You've got command, somebody pushes a button or connects wires and it runs down a wire to detonate it. You got pressure plates, which a lot of times are metallic, sometimes they're not. You have power sources that are set off. Your remote might be set off at a distance so that it's not detected or other things aren't used to stop it. So with the rings, what we did is we'd look on the big circle, eliminate everything out there, because if something happens out there and that blows up, you're still good, you're still safe, you're far enough out. So if you eliminate that threat, then you move into the next one and you eliminate that threat. Well, that furthest threat is that person pushing the button, right? So as you work it down, you've eliminated all those outside threats. Now the only threat is person actuated. The only way it's going to go off now is if you do it. So you've eliminated those other hazards to make things safer to work on. And you can do the same thing in the business world. Eliminate, know what those hazards are, know what those things that are going to slow you down are, and eliminate those. Work on them first until you get down to your final product. And you're going to be a lot more successful. You're going to live, which is good. And along with that, with the be brave, not foolish, don't rush into the decision before you identify and mitigate the risks. I just talked about that. Mitigate those risks. Accept the ones that you have to accept. Get rid of the ones you don't. You can never get rid of all your risks. It's just the way it is. They're going to be there. But you take on the ones that you can handle, that you don't have to get rid of. Promote competitive atmosphere and don't be afraid to lose. It's necessary to push the team to success, but own up to the failures. We talked about that. You need to promote the desire to win. Winning is good. Some places you've got away from that, but in the business world, in the combat world, you got to win. That's your objective, is to put out the best product, to come back safe, to defeat the items that's killing people out there. And then understanding that owning up and addressing failure will have a great impact on growth in the team, as success does. So, especially on the training side, failures, you learn from failures. You remember something you did wrong more than what you remember you did right. So don't be afraid to bring those out, because that's what promotes growth. Keyword, learn from your mistakes. Be strong, have endurance. As a leader, you need to push your teams, but you need to know where their physical and mental peaks are. So you don't push them past that, but you push them to continue to be better. And this doesn't necessarily have to be on the grinder or in the gym, or it's anywhere. You make better people, mentally and physically, and you work on that. And just know each team member is going to be different. We talked about this before. So each team member needs to be handled differently, and you need to learn that as a leader. You don't handle this guy the same way you handle that girl, because you're not going to be productive. Handle them both the same way. You need to learn, need to understand, and respect how those people handle things. It's your job to understand individual strengths and weaknesses. Utilize a team, and utilize as a team to help build their weaknesses. So identify those, work with that person to bring those weaknesses to a strength. And utilize the team weaknesses to build a strength, utilize the strength to build the weaknesses. Again, keep your ego in check. You need to, this happens a lot, unfortunately. You need to stand up for your team when an order threatens their success. So you're their team leader. They look at you for their back. If they're out there making decisions and they're worried you're not going to have their back, they're going to make wrong decisions. They need to have the freedom to make those decisions. You need to trust them. That training cycle got them to a point where you trust them to make the call. If you give them that responsibility, then you need to back them in that responsibility. They need to know that you have their back. If you don't, then loss of respect, loss of productivity, and failure, ultimately. Don't take the credit. Don't take your team's credit. You see this too often. Give the credit to the team. Your success is based on your team's success. So if this guy does something, don't come back and say, yeah, it's my team, so yeah, I did that. No, you didn't. Give the credit to the guy that did it or the girl that did it. That's important. It helps growth, and it's very detrimental to the team when you start taking credit for the team's actions or an individual actions. This one's a tough one. Be close to subordinates, but not too close. As a leader, In the unity community, it's a family. I mean, there's 8 of us on a team, sometimes 10, and it's hard to be that guy that's you demand the respect, but you want to be the buddy. Once you get that respect, it's easy. But if you're that buddy right from the start, yeah, hey, call me John, yeah, we're good. Let's go out and party, let's have a few drinks. And they treat you like that other, equal rank, or you're now, hey, I can get over on this guy. I can get over on this girl. So that's a fine line to toe. It's really hard. It's one of the hardest things I've seen out there. It's one of the hardest positions to be in because sometimes you're not invited to the party. But if you do it right, it works out well. And you get invited, and they still call you chief, and it works out good. Just don't get too drunk. That's bad. They saw me once like that. I'll never do that again. Had that one carry me back. That's bad. Yeah, without trust and confidence in a leader, the leader's doomed, and eventually you fail. And the last one, own your decisions. You made that decision, you own up to it. If it was a bad decision, you own up to it. Leaders take responsibility for all the team's actions, yet avoid micromanaging. If you have to micromanage, you failed. You failed in your training. And you're failing as a leader. Micromanagement, all it does is it's detrimental to the team, delays growth, and it delays productivity. People don't want to work when you're on the shoulder, and you're not going to expand, you're not going to improve, you're not going to get those fresh thoughts, and your company's going to stagnate. So that's a big one on our side. And I just have a couple notes. That was note 8. Just a couple of remembers. You can't be successful without the success of your team. The more you develop and grow your team members, the more successful the team will be. These are all, in my eyes, main rules that are true. A leader's job is to develop his subordinates to be able to take your job. That's hard in the corporate world, but if you're developing your employees to the level that you're at, your product level is going to skyrise. Things are going to be a lot more successful, and your company's going to boom. Take pride in the advancement of your team, of your team members. They are the measure of your success. If your team's advancing, you're successful because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing to get that guy to move up. And finally, and probably most important, communicate. Promote and exercise good communications throughout the team. Without it, success is virtually impossible. If your communication sucks, and it's everywhere, I don't care where you are, if you can't communicate clearly, whether it's verbally or by other means, electronically, whatever, things aren't going to happen. If you give an instruction, you want a job to get done, but you don't communicate how or what needs to be done accurately because your communication skills are bad, kind of like mine, product's not going to be there. You're not going to get it done right, and things aren't going to happen. That's about all I got. Any questions? Sorry I took you over, didn't I?
Well, I guess I better, thank you, Chief. We have a present for you. I guess I'm going to take one lesson. I better stop micromanaging my 13-year-old then. But anyway, thank you again for coming, and thank you for serving, and welcome home. So thank you again for serving. But at the University of Washington here, we would like to give you a gift. And while I was watching the clip, I have a dig through here. It's a pretty funny clip.
Yeah.
Say what?
A bill?
No, I found a cookie.
It's chocolate chip?
No, it's not. But you have to watch the film because it's pretty funny. He goes, cookie? It's like,
Cookie time.
Cookie time. It's cookie
That's
time.
kind of chocolate chip. It's white chocolate. No.
But anyway, we want to give you a UW hat.
Sweet. Because I am a Husky fan, not a Cougar fan.
Oh, really? Got it.
I saw your coat. Awesome. That's nice.
Then we're gonna give you a T-shirt here. Extra sexy, extra medium. So, and the last one.
That's awesome. Thanks. Oh, more.
The UW cup.
Oh,
The
nice.
diploma, and also a
Thank you.
UW.
Do I get the bag?
You get the bag.
Oh,
And
sweet.
it says a veteran on it. So, thank you again, Chief.
Awesome,
I appreciate
thanks.
your time here.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Any questions? Before you watch show?
Yeah, so after you found out you're going to be taking these crews and a lot of your actions are going to be filmed, were you ever concerned about stuff that might go out on this television show be used against you or other EOD later?
Talking about TTPs,
I don't know what that means, but
tactics, and
there you go, yeah.
yes, which is why we screened it. I mean, there are some things you see, but you don't see what we actually did and how we got to that point. So what they watch, if the bad guys want to try to attack us on what they saw, they're going to fail, because the TTPs that we actually use, you don't see.
Okay.
You know, you might see me down there, most everyone, they show, I don't know why it was me freaking probing on it, but on the ID, but you don't see our entire TTPs.
Everything that went into that.
As far as harassment, yeah, I was very concerned about harassment because I get it all the time. But not as bad as I thought. So I was must have did something right if I'm not getting hammered as bad as I could have been by some of my peers.
Sure.
Chief, how are you taking the transition of military now to civilian?
It's not hard because, well, the job's not hard because I went from DOD to DON, Department of Navy. But it's so slow, and it's I'm poking my eyes out. I get everything done by 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday. And,
Well, you can learn from him. He gets done Friday night.
It's a good job. It's a high GS job, but I've got to find. I get out and I get to do more, promote more stuff, make things safer. But it's hard doing what we're doing. You know, I'm not diving anymore. I'm not jumping out of planes. Don't get to blow stuff up anymore. I'm supposed to stop it now. But it's pretty tough. My body was telling me anyway. Ortho knows me really well. Been in there a lot. But it's hard. You probably figured it out. It's not easy. Probably for all of you.
I got one question. I mean, you're going out there, and how do you make peace with yourself that this might be the last?
You don't think about it.
You don't think about it.
First time we went out, that was there. After that, you don't think about it till you get back, because you're in job focus. And muscle memory, training like you're gonna fight is real. It promotes that subconscious thought. I mean, you don't even think about it. At least I don't. When I did think about it is when I had to send somebody else out. So, being the most experienced guy, old guy, had a lot longer life. I went out and on all the jobs that were high risk. Not that I didn't trust the guys, but they didn't have the experience I had at the time. So, but yeah, you think about it when you get back. You definitely, when you get back, you're like, I wasn't great.
Well, thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
No, thanks a lot for coming. Appreciate it.